Hello everybody, and welcome back to At the Movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I am your host, William Fletcher, and this week I am joined once again by Kitty. So, hello, Kitty.
Hello.
Yeah, so great to have you back on again for another episode.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah. So this week, for this episode, we will be covering Jojo Rabbit, which was my choice. I watched it Wednesday last week, and I thought that'd be a good film to talk about. I thought there would be a lot of interesting conversation to be had about it. And so, yeah. But before we start talking about the film, do you have any sort of general broad strokes on Taika Waititi as a filmmaker? Is there anything?
I think this is actually the first thing I've seen of him, or I'm not familiar. I've seen some of his acting stuff, but I'm not sure about his
filmmaking, as a directorial and okay. This is I've seen the Thor Ragnarok was the one the film he did. That was the first one I saw.
Oh, right.
And I quite enjoyed that. I thought it was very good. And so I was very interested and I was looking forward to this film. And then I'm just gonna sort of lay my cards on the table. I honestly am disappointed in this film. I honestly thought it would have been a lot better than it actually is, honestly. And so that's just sort of what I think of it. I just don't think it's that great, honestly.
I thought it was amazing. I think it's one of the best films I've seen in a long time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm looking on Google what we do in the chat.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've seen the TV series of What We Do in the Shadows.
I'm a fan, I'd say, of him.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess is there any place you want to start with this film? Is there any particular thing? Can you sort of, I guess before we sort of go to sort of more individual elements, is there anything, why do you like this film so much? Why do you...
I love how, it did it all, it was, a witty, upbeat comedy while being, satirical, but also, gut-wrenchingly emotional. It was just, it checked, every box for me. It was just great.
Right. Everything you just mentioned, I feel that it fails to do that well. I would argue that it's there are some funny scenes, there's some good jokes, really, but I think that everything else is it's fine. It's not. I don't think it's bad. I think bad is the correct word. But I definitely don't think it's that great as a film. Honestly, I would much rather watch several other things I'd much rather watch than this film.
What do you think, what, let you down, what?
I think it was because the sort of audience and the critical response to the film sort of led me to believe that, because usually I want to watch a film if it's a lot of people say this is a good film, then I'm inclined to say, okay, well, I'm interested in seeing that because a lot of people say it's a really good film, and this was one of the more recent examples of that. And I just sort of felt that it wasn't that good. I didn't think there were any particularly amazing performances in it. I thought nobody was really...
The kid was so good, though.
He's fine. I've seen so many better child performances. I was assuming you're talking about the main kid, Roman Griffin Davis. Yeah. He's fine, but he's nothing there's much better child performances that I've seen that just are a lot better than what he does. But he's fine. He's fine.
Also, with what you were saying before, I saw. Well, yes, there was I remember a lot of hype in 2019 when it first came out, but the reviews on Letterboxd were so mixed. It's either 2 stars or 5 stars.
Yeah, I'm just gonna sort of look where.
Yeah.
Yeah. I sort of, and I don't think for me it's not a whole like what the film does per se is. It's not that it's because of like what the subject matter is or whatever it's making fun of. Like that's not the problem I have with it. Cause I think that when it comes to comedy, I'm very like open to anything. I think anything can be funny. It just sort of depends on how well you do that and how you make it funny. And I think this film just sort of doesn't do it as well as it maybe it thinks it does. I think that it's sort of a film that people think is much more clever and subtle than I think it. I don't think it's that. Like I think that people sort of think there's a lot more to it than there actually is. Honestly, I just sort of think that it. I just think it's being put on perhaps a pedestal that I don't know if it is warranted for it, I guess. Yeah, in a sense that people think it's something that it's not, and they're trying to justify it in a way of being this good thing. But I don't really get that from this film. So it doesn't really speak in that way to me, I guess.
I could see that. Like, if you take out the like satirical elements, I still think it's a great film. Just like the emotional. Like, did you cry? Because I cried. Like, that's how hard.
No, I did. I'm assuming you were talking about the big sort of emotional beat that the film has.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I didn't because I knew it was gonna happen. Like it sort of it was like a whole. Like, not that it was spoiled, but because it was so obvious that it was going to happen. Like, I just clear there's going to be massive spoilers for this film. So I guess I'll just go into that now. I felt that it was obvious that she was going to die. To me, it was very much like, I was watching it, well, because I knew there was like this whole big sort of emotional moment in it. But I felt... But sort of, I figured out that, oh, something's going to happen, or she's going to die, something's going to happen, before it happened. And I was like, oh yeah, it did. And I just think that, you know, I don't know if you should be able, I don't think for filmmakers, people should be able to guess what the twist is of the film, if it's, you know, like, if people can guess the twist, then it's not a very good twist then, is it? Like, I don't think it...
Yeah. Oh, but I didn't guess it like at all. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an idiot. But yeah, I didn't. Well, I wasn't 100% like in like analytical mode because it just kind of like caught me off guard because I wasn't really 100% sure what it was going to be like going in. So I just kind of like let it happen to me, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, all the emotional bits really like hit me, and I didn't see it coming. So yeah, we definitely had a different experience watching this. But I thought the performances were like outstanding. Like Scarlett Johansson.
Listen, I like Scarlett Johansson. She's a very good actress. But the fact that she was Oscar nominated for this role is insane. There are so many better supporting.
She was Oscar nominated?
Yeah, she was Oscar nominated for this and for Marriage Story, which is like Marriage Story is good because she is good in that. But this is like it's not an Oscar-worthy performance. There's so many performances that they could have nominated that they just didn't because I don't know what. It's just like I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Oscar-worthy, but like, I thought it was like definitely like an interesting take, and it was uniquely done, and it was done quite well. Like the scene where she like puts the fireplace ash on her face to like play the kid's father. I thought that was so well done, and I couldn't think of many other actresses that would have been able to play it that way, you know. I thought that scene was like significantly well done, and it was just really interesting to like try and get my head around that. Like it took me a second because like the kid kind of knows what's up, but yeah, I thought she portrayed the character really well. You know, I think all of the performances were like I have no complaints about the performances.
No, I genuinely think that, like, the only performance that I truly liked was Stephen Merchant's. Because I think that's more just I like Stephen Merchant rather than he gave a great performance. I think it's more just my personal enjoyment of him, just in general, as opposed to actually being good, perhaps. Like, I really don't think I think, I'm just going to be honest, I don't think Taika Waititi is a good actor. I genuinely think that he's one of those guys who should just be a director and a writer and not an actor. Like, there's not a lot of directors, but there's some directors that try and get into acting, but they can't, and they're not good at it. And I think that he's one of those, people that can't be, that can't act, but thinks they can.
Yeah,
Like,
I think he's more so good at like the kind of wacky roles, right? Like the What We Do in the Shadows kind
yeah,
of
I think
stuff.
he. Also, that could just be it. That this performance isn't really like for him. Like, it's just sort of, and I don't think that, like, I don't know. I get the whole sort of, like, I just think it seems a bit like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it seems maybe like possibly arrogant that he puts himself in the film as Hitler, and instead of getting, a good actor to do that performance and to actually portray it in a way that would work and actually
Yeah,
be good. I think his accent is, like, the accent that he does for it is wild. I think all the accents, though, for all the German accents are wildly inconsistent. Like, none of them really keep
yeah,
the accents consistently, and it just and I don't know if that's just like a stylistic choice, or if it's just they couldn't be bothered to keep doing it. But it doesn't work for me as it's sort of in the film. Like, it just doesn't work for me.
yeah. Looking at the cast now, thinking back, I actually do have an issue. Rebel Wilson was terrible. Like, why did they put her in like just like this misplaced character? Like, I didn't see what the need for her role was. I don't think she brought anything to the
No,
movie. I think her comedic performances are always like yeesh, but
I mean,
yeah, apart from that.
I don't think she's particularly great. I don't think she's like an actress with much range, and I sort of think that she sort of, it's in a lot of her things. It's sort of always the same thing. In that she just sort of does the same thing in every film she's in, and it's not even good what she usually does. It's just, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, but the Hitler character, I actually think the performance suited it, right? Because it goes from like this boy's like inspiring like best friend, like you can do it, whatever. And
yeah.
then over the course of the movie it like turns into like, the terrifying like dictator role. And I thought that was done really well, even if maybe it could have been done by a better actor. I think it really suited like the first couple scenes the way he was there, and then gradually as it got like darker, I think maybe it really shows where a better actor could have been utilized. But I still think they got away with it. I think it was smooth enough to work. But
And
yeah, I liked the character in general, like going from that, like showing the kids like perception of like, Nazis.
yeah. I should also clarify. It's not that I wanted to dislike the song, because I wanted to like it, but it just didn't work for me. It was sort of it's a very good concept of, it's sort of, a kid's imaginary best friend is Hitler. Like, that's a really good idea for a film, but yet they don't do what like they could do, and I don't think it's like not the best way of doing that. Like, it just doesn't work, I guess.
Yeah, I think the concept was amazing. There were some parts that felt like it didn't really fit together fully. Like I think the intro bit where it was like the Hitler Youth convention or whatever that was, I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was kind of like looking back was kind of weirdly placed and strange, but like it could be seen as like, a good start, like an introduction for like
Yeah.
world building or whatever. And I think it kind of misleadingly sets the tone because looking back, like that introduction section, it does not make much sense, and I feel like they were kind of like trying to like cram in the Jojo rabbit thing, like they're trying to make him like
Yeah.
kill the rabbit, which I think like kind of weird and like, but yeah, that was my only complaint with like the actual like plot line of the movie. Everything after that I think was great, but I think that could have been done differently in a more like interesting way.
Right. Yeah. I, I um I don't I think like I don't have a problem with like the sort of tonal inconsistencies if it's done well. Like I don't have a problem with the idea of, oh, it's a comedy 1 minute and then it does this. It just it doesn't do them well. Like it doesn't sort of transition from one genre to another, smoothly or as well as it could do. And it's just like I don't like it. Just sort of is annoying, I guess, that it's trying to do all these different things, but it's not doing any of them well. And I'd rather just focus on one or two things instead of several other things. It should have just focused on a certain area and not try
Yeah,
and
but I feel like if they, because going down the Hitler road, you can go one of two ways, I think. Well, they could have gone one of two ways with this movie. They could have done the satire, made it really over the top and like funny, or they could have done like the dramatic thing. But they did both, and I think they did just like get away with it. But there were definitely some parts that needed like smoother transition. But yeah, the scene where he discovers his mother's death, I thought was really great. And the last scene where they start dancing, and there's just a lot of like little things that kind of blend well together, like the shoes, his like progression to like learning to tie shoelaces, how his
yeah.
like mother did it for him, and then he did it for his mother, and then he
Oh,
did
that bit
it
just
for
feels
Elsa.
very forced. Where she's
Well,
being hung and I just that does not work. Honestly, it's just like I
I
get what they're
thought
trying
it
to do, but
did.
they don't do it well. It's not. It does not work for me.
Because it was like an act of service, It's like she tied his shoes before he would like leave for the Hitler camp thing, and then as like a motherly thing to like protect him. And then when she was dead, he was like, "Oh no, my mother's dead. I want to like do something nice for her, like protect her, like she did me. So she ties her shoelace. I thought it was cute and I thought it worked. And then at the end again, when he ties Elsa's shoelace, it kind of like comes full circle with the fact that like it shows them becoming like more of a family, because they don't have anyone else.
Right. I get the what they're trying to go for and what they're doing, but it just doesn't work. I don't think they did that well enough to sort of justify the whole idea of it. It just didn't really work.
What did you think of the ending?
The end of I I think the ending is fine. Like I get the whole idea of what she of wanting of what sort of the setup early and the payoff at the end, and I think that is fine. But I just sort of feel that it's just not done as well as like it's. I don't know. I just thought it was all right. I guess
I liked it a lot. I think it was like just subtle enough to work. And I think I don't know, movies with interesting endings. I'm a huge fan of. I like the kind of like unsettling ending, or I like when they can end it without everything having to be like neatly wrapped up, you know. And this movie was like concluded well, you know, plot wise, but there was still kind of like it wasn't like everything. It wasn't like uh you can't imagine what happens after it ends. You know, like it
Yeah.
still had like potential of like what could happen next. Yet it was like a plateau in their lives, you know, like oh this moment is like, you know, a moment of freedom.
Yeah.
And I think the dancing, also like his mum dancing, like when they were like walking, like there was a scene where they were like walking through like a street and the mother was like up on the ledge and the
Yeah.
kid was walking on the footpath. I thought that was cute because, you know, it's normally the kid and it
Yeah.
shows that she's like a young spirit and
Mm.
her dancing there and then the dancing at the end. Yeah, I just thought it was a nice way to show like the freedom and like self-expression, you know. I thought it was nice.
I just, I think this is a film that, I sort of, well, this is sort of a separate point, I guess, I was gonna make, is sort of that I think I do get the idea of how they're trying to portray that character and the way that they want to portray it, and it makes sense and everything, but it just feels to me that they don't do like what I don't think they went as like they pushed it as far as they could with the just with any of the concepts. I sort of think that they don't do enough with what they have at their like sort of disposal to do with the story, and I think that is a flaw in the film, that they, you know, it's not as out there as I think it could have been for this kind of film. I just sort of think they could have done more with it.
Yeah. You know what I did like? I liked the editing a lot. It was very like in the Hail Hitler scenes where they were like greeting each other, how it would like go from one person to the other. I thought that really like accentuated like how ridiculous it was.
Yeah.
And like yeah, the editing throughout.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
really
I do
good.
like that. I do think that is a good scene of when the Gestapo at Jojo's house, they apparently, according to Taika Waititi, Hitler said 31 times in the span of a minute.
Oh my god.
To sort of, because he wanted it something funny to happen, but also to illustrate how ridiculous Nazi protocols were. And I do think that as a scene does work, and I think that scene is probably the best scene of the film because it's the one that really sort of works for me, I guess. I think it's got some good comedy stuff, but it's also got some sort of nice tension that can build.
Yes.
I think
Tension was great.
yeah. I sort of that was good. I think there was sort of we've sort of been talking about Taika Waititi sort of in and out of this, but I sort of want to get to a point that he was talking about, because the film screened at, you know, various film festivals in, you know, Toronto and other various places, and he was sort of discussing the criticism some people had for the film, and I think that if you just give me a second. I think that the director Taika thinks that the critics wouldn't be as harsh about the film if they knew he was Jewish, because he is Jewish. But I don't know if him being Jewish would necessarily affect whether or not people think that it's like a good or not.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
I,
I don't
I
think really, like movie critics, I don't think they often, I don't think they really take into account the writers and directors, like individual backgrounds. They just focus on the end product, like of the actual film.
mm,
But so I don't know, maybe though, I don't think that was a big reliant or whatever. I don't think that was a big factor in reviews, but maybe it was.
I think there are some people who like filmmakers who sort of take film criticism and they sort of can't admit or don't understand that people might not like the film they've made, or they might think that, oh, it's like these people just don't get it. And I think in a lot of cases it's not that, it's just people don't like the film. Like,
Yeah.
I like recently the film Malcolm and Marie came out, and the director,
Really bad.
you have seen it, so I'm just going to quickly
Yeah.
make a point just sort of tie it in, because it is sort of on topic of that. The director, he sort of got a bad review, didn't he? And he made a film of the John David Washington character just sort of complaining about how the critics don't understand him, or it's a
Yeah.
and I think that this sort of goes back to that sort of thing of Taika, of sort of thinking that it's the critics and, you know, those people who are the problem, and when in reality it could just be that they didn't like the film, and that's not their problem. It's your problem that you didn't make it's not anyone's problem really. But I think it's sort of, you need to accept criticism and understand that maybe you're just like that. Maybe people just aren't as good as they think they are, or maybe they just don't have the talent in some people's eyes. I think some directors sort of don't understand that, and
Yeah, Malcolm and Marie, I think, is a good example, because it was just like in the movie, the protagonist, he gets a good review for his movie, and then yet spends 40 minutes ranting about this person's opinion because he doesn't think it's valid, because he thinks he's so like above everyone else. And I think if the film was more aware of that and made it like a meta thing, it could have worked, but it just came off so pretentious and awful. But yeah, I think because Jojo Rabbit is like part comedy, part drama, definitely more subject to critics' views. Like, it had more potential to be like taken the wrong way, you know.
Yeah.
So I think there was always going to be bad reviews, but I think if it hit someone right, it can be seen as like 10 out of 10, you know, like it was for me. But if like someone just didn't like read it the right way or interpreted things differently, then it's like a really hit or miss kind of thing. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, for me it was hit.
Yeah, it just didn't. I think that, and I don't even think it's the idea of it's. I don't think it's because I'm not Jewish or whatever, or I don't have that sort of experience. I don't think that's what it is. I think that it's sort of more of a it just, I don't know if, like, it might appeal more to people who are Jewish, but I think that it's sort of, but I don't know if a film should only appeal and work for one audience, because I don't know if that's a well-made film then, if it only appeals to a certain demographic, or if it's made for a certain demographic, say. Like, not to say it is, but I think that if it only really works for a demographic, one demographic, then it's just not well made then.
Yeah, definitely. I think film making and watching in general, I think, is very like universal experience. You know, like And so I definitely think it should be like be able to be interpreted by anyone.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it would have been enjoyed by been enjoyed more by a different audience if they had a like personal connection to the subject matter. Yeah, but in this case, I don't think that's true. I think it was pretty universal. Because I think like it just like most of the characters, aside from like Rebel Wilson's character, but most of the characters had they were very strong, you know, and I liked how like the military level people, like Captain Klesendorf,
Oh yeah, Sam Rockwell's character. Yeah.
yes, yeah. I thought that was done like so well. Like, yes, he's like high up in the military or whatever, but he's also just like a nice guy that likes like designing clothes and not yelling at people. You know, like it really shows the individual like nature of each character. Like the kid's friend, Yorkie, the little kid that,
Oh,
like,
I
becomes a
found him
soldier.
to be absolutely annoying. Honestly, he was so annoying, and he wasn't even trying to do a German accent. He was just doing an annoying
Yeah, that
English
was
accent, and it
British.
really annoyed me. Like, at least Robin Griffin Davis attempted a German accent. Like, he at least tried to do something.
The accents were a bit of a letdown. That was a bit annoying because it kind of like yeah, that kid especially really like took me out of it when he was just like speaking to him. I was like, come on, man, at least try.
Yeah, it just didn't work. Honestly, I just made a few notes. One note I made was subtlety much in all capital letters, question mark, exclamation mark at the end. Because honestly, I don't. Is there meant to be subtlety in this film? Because I've seen.
Well, it's a satire, so
Yeah, but I remember I was reading like comments of like a YouTube video, and they were talking about the Sam Rockwell character being, about being like, oh, like he's gay or whatever, and like that was subtle or whatever. And it's like, well, no, it's not. It's incredibly obvious that he is gay. Like that's the point. He's obviously gay.
yeah.
Like that's not subtle, and I think I don't know if people, and I think like the whole sort of idea of subtlety, it's like, but like when people try and argue for something's being subtle or not, I don't know if they understand what that word means, because I would argue that if you argue this film is subtle, then I think you're wrong, because I don't think it is subtle at all. I think it's just like I maybe people interpret subtlety, but I didn't interpret any subtlety.
Yeah, no, I did not either. I think definitely that was like blaringly obvious, and especially like it even showed him like having a relationship kind of with the other guy, like saying like, "That's alright, I yelled at you," whatever. Like that was obviously like
Yeah.
intimacy, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not think that was subtle. I don't think anything in the movie really was. I think it like said what it needed to say, and it said that loudly, you know. But I think the more subtle things were like motifs or whatever. But even those weren't so subtle, like the shoes and like the dancing. I'm sure there were other things as well, but like those things, even the things that were like throughout that were meant to be like subtle, I think were quite obvious.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like you could miss anything. It was all very obvious. Definitely not very subtle. But I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, I don't think everything has to have like a secret meaning for it to be like good. Like I think it was extremely enjoyable. Like if you look beyond the satirical nature, like I could just enjoy this film as like an emotional comedy, you know?
Right.
Like
yeah.
regardless of the political point of view.
I actually was just thinking there was a performance we did forget to talk about. Thomasin McKenzie in
Yes.
who I thought she was actually, now the more I think about it, was actually pretty decent. In the film, I thought she
I thought she was great.
nothing outstanding or anything, but she was definitely, like, she was good at what she was doing and with what she was given. I felt that she did a good job with that.
Yeah, I think she had pretty good range. Like, she could play like the kind of scary Jew, you know, like the teasing kind of big sister. But then also she could do like the emotional, like, upset, like, my fiance's dead. Whatever. I think she did it all really well. But I don't think I've seen her in like much else. I think this is the only thing I've pretty much seen her in, so I don't have like a huge idea of
I'm just
her range.
I'm just sort of looking at her like filmography and seeing if there's anything major that I've seen her in. Not really. She's going to be in the upcoming Edgar Wright film, which I'm looking forward to.
Yes, that's exciting.
Which I'm just I need to find someone who hasn't seen like any of Edgar Wright's films, because I'm a big fan of Edgar Wright, and I think he would be. It would be a very interesting episode to talk about one of his films. Yeah, I think that she probably gives the best performance. Like she in terms of she's in the film. Like, I'd probably say I like Stephen Merchant more, but she is in the film more, so she probably is better.
Stephen Merchant was very good at the creepy, like,
powerful. he has that. He just sort of has that look of just, he's like very tall and very like gangly, and he very much fits the look of, you know, a creepy man.
Yeah. Like, I remember there was one shot that was in profile, and it showed him like standing over the gay guy whose name I can't remember.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was like a really cool shot. Like, it showed his like power and like fear. But then,
I think I found the one you're talking about. I think I found. It's like a two shot of the both of them on screen, and then it's just I
thought that was a great shot. Yeah. There were a lot of like very cinematic great shots, I thought, which is rare for a comedy, you know, but so I thought it was great.
I'm just sort of I made a note that I thought the costume and production design were all pretty decent. I sort of, that's probably one of the better parts of the film, was the costume and production design that they did on the film.
I thought it was really nice to see like a Nazi movie that wasn't all in like dull colors.
Yeah, that was a note, sort of something Taika Waititi said. For he was doing research on the film, and he sort of, that Germany in World War II was like a very vibrant, you know, sort of colourful place, and so he wanted to emulate that. Instead of having it being a dark, dreary film, he wanted to have more colour and more stuff that popped on screen, instead of just the usual, you know, blacks and greys and such.
I thought that was definitely noticeable. I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
Also, the kid that we hate, you know, the bad accent one.
Oh yeah.
There was a scene with his like uniform saying it was like paper, and how like it was hard to walk in that. I thought that was an interesting detail, and I liked that they included that, kind of like a bit of like real world trivia kind of thing. You know, I liked that.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think like what there is to say. I guess we could sort of, I'm going to sort of take it back to the whole reveal, I guess, of Scarlett Johansson's character's death. I guess if we want to sort of take it back to that and talk about that, I think it's because, well, beforehand, because I knew there was sort of a big emotional like beat of sort of a big emotional moment,
And as I was watching it, I had the sort of idea in my mind that they would do something weird, like have Jojo and what's the girl's name? Elsa? Is
Elsa,
that yeah. I thought for some reason they're gonna somehow find a way to like connect them, like that there's just a connection between the two or something. And I thought they were gonna try and something like that. I thought they were gonna find a way to connect them, and I was like, oh, I don't want them to do that. But then they don't do that because it's sort of revealed that, you know, the scene where they're checking her papers, yeah. And so she got the date wrong, but Sam Rockwell's character sort of left them, I guess, to sort of show that that they're not all bad, and that I just sort of was like, well, it can't be that then. And sort of
there was a kind of connection between them.
Yeah.
So Jojo had a sister, and she was friends with his sister, and his sister died.
Yeah.
So that was their like connection.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like sisterly, like, but not really.
Yeah.
I thought that was fine. By the way, I liked their relationship a lot.
I do think that is one of the better parts of the film, of the just two of them interacting and the sort of the relationship the two of them pair.
Yeah.
And just sort of how they, you know, just sort of how, you know, the way they act together. I felt that worked quite a bit.
The scene after Jojo sees his mother's like corpse or whatever, and then he like tries to stab Elsa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he like immediately like regrets, and you can see like the guilt on his face.
Yeah.
And Elsa like goes to comfort him. I thought that was acted really well by the kid. You know, I thought his performance was like significantly good. If you compare it to like another like Nazi movie that had a kid in it, like have you seen The Boy in the Striped Pajamas?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, put that on your watch list.
Alright.
But the kid's performances, like, it's more so a sad movie because these sad things are happening to the kids, not because the kids make you feel sad because of their performances, you know, which I thought this movie did so well, like, because the kid was actually a good actor, which is somewhat rare. It's getting more and more interesting lately to see, like, child performances, like, improving, because, like, I feel like, it used to be like, no one cares, like, you put a kid in a movie and he says his lines and that's all you need, like, a child actor to be, but now it's more, like, artful, and there are actually, like, a lot of significant roles played by children.
Yeah. I think, just sort of in general, there aren't many, like, truly great child performances, in my opinion. I think there are the rare exceptions, but in general, I would say that there's not many great performances from kid actors.
Do you think this is one of them?
I don't think he's particularly... What, the main kid?
Yeah.
I don't think he's particularly great, but he's not bad. Like, he's fine. He's perfectly serviceable. So he's not... Like, he's probably better than most child actors, but...
For sure.
It's not anything particularly special.
I can understand that.
I would argue.
I think if he was... I can't wait to see, like, how he ages, you know? Because if he's, like, this good as a kid, in, like, 10 years, he's gonna be, like, amazing.
That is true. I think if he sort of... Like, he definitely seems like someone who just... He sort of needs to do more, and he sort of needs to hone...
Yeah.
His craft of acting. And just sort of... I think if he just sort of improves, he can, you know... Yeah. So he is 14. I just sort of looked him up, and he is 14, which is, you know, quite young to start acting. I do think, though, for some kid actors, it might not be, like, being a kid actor doesn't seem like the easiest job in the world, because, like there's been so many stories. Yeah. Oh, sorry, could you say that again?
Exploitation.
Yeah. That, yes. Yeah. I think it also sort of can impact them just as a person in general, in the whole thing of
like working so young.
And
it's, like, so harsh.
and like the fame and the sort of like what can come from that. Like if you sort of look at other child actors, they have grown up to not be in the best places in life, and I think that, you know, that is always, there's always a possibility of that happening to, you know, child actors. So we were going to talk about the death scene. Well, not death scene, but the sort of reveal of the death of Jojo's mother. And I figured it out. Well, I didn't figure out that she was going to be dead per se, but I did think that I sort of figured out that
I thought there might be a conflict between her and the military for being like a rebel, but I did not expect the death.
Yeah, I sort of expected. I didn't. Yeah, I sort of was like, well, they kept. They kept bringing up that she was gone and everything, and I think that is part of the problem of bringing up this thing constantly, and I think that's when it comes to sort of big reveals or twists or what like that. If you continuously bring attention to something, people are more than likely going to figure out, you know, what you don't want them to figure out. And I don't think that's good writing if you constantly have to bring attention to, hey, she's not here, he hasn't seen her in a while, she's just been out all this time. And at that point I was sort of like, oh, okay, so something's happened to her. I think the reveal, though, I will say the reveal was actually very nice and very well done. Sort of just sort of he stands up and there's just her hanging there. I think that worked very well. I think that was a very.
I think it wasn't so much about surprising the audience, but the audience like watching the kid be surprised by it. You know, like watching his reaction rather than it being like a massive shock. I think it's more about that. But yeah, I do think there could have been some more subtlety with that. But it was still a very emotional scene.
I understood what they were going for, but it just didn't work for me in a sense of like they were doing this, but they, you know, it just sort of felt forced, the whole idea of him doing the shoelaces. But I do like the whole that we don't really see it, like we don't really see her hanging there. It's more just sort of from it's sort of far shots, and or you just sort of see him seeing her.
I think they couldn't have really done it any other way though, because if they spent like less time focusing, like they did a lot of like close-ups on the shoes and really like focused on them a lot, which is necessary because of the hanging reveal. And I think if they didn't do that, it might have been like a more dramatic reveal and it could have been better, but also that might have meant a lot of people just like missed it completely. And I'll be like, well, who is this kid that, like, who's this lady's feet that the kid is holding, you know, which is like a risk. So I think that was kind of the only way that it could have happened. So I don't think but yeah, I think it was well done. Like the kid's reaction was great.
Yeah, I thought it was. I think it is a lot to ask from, like, a kid from like a relatively not young, but like he's like 11 or whatever. So it's very difficult to ask a kid of that age to try and
imagine this is your mother hanging from a rope.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like it's a lot to ask from. I mean, to be fair, it's probably a lot to ask from any actor really to try and to do that, but it's very much like it's fine. Like, it's not particularly great, but it's not like anything.
Not as dramatic as it could be.
Yeah, but I think that's part of the reason is that it's, you know, a kid
Yeah.
who's doing this instead of, you know, someone who's probably
Like a trained
like a
actor with a lot of experience.
yeah. I'm just sort of, I didn't really make a lot of notes about the film because I sort of had the idea after I watched it, so I was making notes as I was watching it. So is there any sort of things, like any big thing, like major, like things you want to touch on, sort of, for this film?
I think we've pretty much covered most of my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like just a perfectly fine, watchable film, but it's nothing special, and I wish, and I'd hoped it would have been better than it was, but it unfortunately was not. But it's not bad. I think, to be fair, my score might be a bit generous because I feel like I've just been sort of saying bad things about this film the entire time. But I'm just gonna. This film, at the moment for me anyway, is a 7 out of 10, which is it's a very low 7, and it might even become a 6 out of 10 at some point. But for now, it is a 7 out of 10 for me.
Okay, I loved this movie. I thought, yes, there were some minor things that it could have done differently or that could have been improved, but overall, I think it did the like two genre thing really well. It had like everything that I look for in film, and I liked that it was like witty but also dramatic. And I would probably give it like a 9.5 out of 10.
Wow, that's really high. Is that the highest score you've given? I think it might.
I think so.
What do you give Rear Window again?
Oh, I think that was like an 8.
An 8. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's.
This was more enjoyable than Rear Window for me. Definitely.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. Thank you for listening. This is probably going to be one of the shorter episodes because I don't know why there just wasn't as much to say, I guess, as there were for some other films. So yeah, thanks guys for listening. Check back next week for, I don't even know what we're going to be doing next time, but yeah, I think there's any final things you want to say.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's good. It's all good. So yeah, that's all good. Goodbye everybody.